Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Arya. Hello, welcome, and I hope you have a great time here. As you can probably tell from the title, today I'm gonna be giving you some book recommendations. I personally love recommending books. I will take any chance I can get to recommend a person a book because I just sort of like gently forcing people to read books that I think are good or that they might like or that I'm sure they will like. So yeah, bottom line, I love recommending books. And with that being said, I am not sure why I've never made a book recommendation video on this channel, but I am doing one now, so we're all good. And as I was going to say before I got sidetracked by my own thoughts, I'm gonna be recommending sort of like spooky books, but also books that give me like fall vibes. And some of those are both fall vibes and spooky, but some are either or. I should also probably mention that like half of the books that I'm going to recommend in this video I have not read, but they just give me a vibe, and I need to communicate that vibe to other people because you never know. This book that I haven't read yet might sound interesting to you and you might pick it up and you might love it. So I don't see the harm in it personally. So with all of that being said, I guess I'm just gonna dive into the recommendations, and I'm gonna try and give you a little bit more about what the books are about, or at least what kind of vibes they give, because I am usually very bad at either remembering what books are about or explaining what they're about even when I know what they're about, and most of the times I just confuse people. I'm like, I cannot explain, but here, read this. Yeah, I'm gonna try and give you a little bit more this time since this is a recommendation video, you know? But anyhow, I am rambling again, so I'm gonna actually start with the books that I've read. So the first book I would strongly recommend people to read is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. Now, considering everything that I've said about giving you more about the books, I will not do that for this book because, in my opinion, you should go into this book without knowing anything. Like, knowing next to nothing, because I believe that by not knowing much, you will enjoy it more and it will just intrigue you more, and it's just going to be better because you're going to try and figure out what exactly is happening. But I will essentially give you an idea of how the book starts. So basically it starts with this story about these three sisters that disappeared for an entire month when they were kids, and then after a month they just came back like suddenly just as they disappeared. And then you follow these three sisters years later, and if I remember correctly, you mainly follow the POV of the youngest sister, and basically years after the initial disappearance, the oldest sister disappears again. So then the youngest and the middle sister are trying to find out where their oldest sister has gone. And I've said the word sister so many times I feel uncomfortable, but basically that's how it starts. And there's a bunch of mysterious, eerie, unexplainable things happening, and I'm just gonna leave it at that in terms of synopsis. But basically, this book is super atmospheric, it is creepy as heck, and it keeps you guessing, it keeps you intrigued. Also, so unique. Like, I've never heard of a concept like this ever. I sort of guessed throughout the story where this was going towards, and that guess was correct, but I still had a really long way to go to the whole reveal. So if anyone actually manages to guess what the hell like is the whole epitome of the story, then tip my hat to you, my friend, because this was something. My next recommendation is a classic, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I actually never know whether it's Marie or Mary. Mary Shelley? Let's just go with Mary. So I am fairly sure that everyone knows what this is about. And the slight chance that you didn't know what this is about, you more or less follow a doctor slash scientist, a man, and he essentially gets obsessed with this particular science, and he basically sort of tries to resurrect and create a different species of human. And different species of human? I don't think that makes sense, but basically he's like trying to create something new, and he's trying to resurrect something. So he creates Frankenstein's monster, and you basically follow both the doctor, who's Frankenstein, and also the monster's POV, and it's very interesting. It's so gothic and melancholy, and I really liked the monster's POV for some reason. Just the way the words were put together, it was interesting. And I am not really one for classics, but this one I would definitely recommend. It is so good, easy to read, and just an interesting story. Like, you see all these Frankenstein retellings left and right, but I don't think any of them actually get to the bottom, the essence of what this book actually is. Yeah, would definitely recommend this, if especially if you're into classics. It's really short, it's good, it's gothic, it's eerie, it has melancholy, sadness, and I for some reason associate those things with fall because it's always dark and gloomy outside, and it's just kind of sad and just you just want to be in your bed and do sad, melancholy stuff, I guess. Or maybe that's just me. But next up, I have another classic, and that is interesting because I don't read classics very often, but some of them are good. You just need to find them. But some of them are really, really bad, like Dracula. Yeah, another classic, and this one is a very well-known one, and it's The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Now, this I have read many, many moons ago, and to be frank, I actually hated it the first time I read it because I read, well, the only time I read it, because I read the Greek translation, and it did not translate the whole vibe. But I've also watched the movie with Ben Barnes, and but yeah, the movie is really good, and I actually want to reread this again in English, and I have a feeling I'm very much gonna like it. It just feels like my kind of vibe. I don't know how to explain it, but this is very well known, and in case you didn't know what this is about, it's essentially about Dorian Gray, who is a very beautiful young man apparently, and he sort of makes a deal with the devil and sells his soul to be young, pretty, and eternal. The deal works, but basically he has this painting of himself that sort of reflects his sins in life. So the sins are portrayed on the picture, and the picture keeps changing with the more debauchery that he gets into, but he stays unchanged. And yeah, basically that's more or less the plot and the story. But this is meant to be like the epitome of gothic literature as far as I'm aware. So I very much want to read this. I definitely want to read more Oscar Wilde, because Oscar Wilde, I don't know what else to say. I want to read it again because I feel like it deserves a second chance. And I also think that this is a pretty good book to read during the spooky slash fall season. Next up, the book I have in my hands is Eight Will Fall by Sarah Harrion, and this one I believe I read last year, and this is more on the fantasy side. And essentially why I would recommend this for the spookier season is because it's quite gory. I wouldn't say it's very spooky. It doesn't really have fall vibes, but it's gory as heck. So if you're into that, I would definitely recommend this. And also I would trigger warning for underground claustrophobic stuff, because I hate like movies where they go like deep in mines and then they're like trapped or like deep in a cave underwater and stuff like that, and there's like creatures and monsters, and it's so claustrophobic I cannot even. And this one has very much that kind of vibes, and it made me uncomfortable to read it, but it was also good. I think it's supposed to be young adult, but it was quite graphic in terms of the deaths and the description of the body horror. So I thought I would recommend it because I don't really see this anywhere, and I think it's a pretty good book, so someone might enjoy it. Next up, I have the last book from the piles that I've actually read, and that one is Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury. And this is like one of my favorite books ever, and this is the only book that actually gave me physical chills. Like I felt cold water trickling down my spine from some of the scenes in here. That was an intense reaction, you know, and I didn't expect it. And just, I don't know, like Melinda Salisbury's writing always captures me and just like sucks me in, and I'm so into the story. And I cannot wait to get more books from this author because I've read them all and I need more. But in regards to this specific book, I would like to keep it vague because essentially the synopsis doesn't really say anything about the plot. But essentially, what it gives you is that it's set in like Scotland Highlands, and it's set in like older times, so it's not modern. And it sort of starts with this girl. You follow her POV, and she thinks she is living with her mother's killer, and she is afraid every single day that one day the killer is just gonna decide to kill her as well, and stuff happens. Like, I don't want to say anything about this book. Like, this book is best going into knowing nothing about whatever you're going to encounter in this. Like, go into this blindly, please, if you're going to, because it's just good. And if I'm gonna start telling you what it's about, then it's just kind of, it just ruins the whole point. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this is like one of my favorite books ever. So please read it. And now moving on to the pile of books that I have not read and essentially don't know too much about them, but they're giving me fall spooky vibes, and I think they would be ideal for this time of the year. So I'm gonna recommend them anyways, and then you just decide from there what you want to do. The first book on the unread recommendation pile is another classic, actually, and that is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I think that's how you say the name. So this is another like gothic classic literature. I very much want to read this. There's also a movie adaptation, and I'm just holding off from watching that because I want to read the book first. And in terms of what this is about, I do believe you essentially follow this woman, and she's recently married, and basically she and her husband moved to this new house or something, and then she starts seeing like the man's first wife, who's supposedly Rebecca, I think, and she's a ghost, and shit just starts getting weirder and weirder. So it's like very much kind of haunted house, I think, ghosts and gothic and like Victorian-esque era, maybe. Very much a vibe, very much something that I would love to read, I think. I feel like I would love this, but I'm sort of intimidated because it's a classic and it's quite a big one, and I don't know. Me and classics is always like hit or miss, but fingers crossed I will actually love it. Still recommending it, even though, I don't know, that essentially goes for every other book on the unread pile. The next book on the pile is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this one, again, I feel like maybe has similar vibes to the previous book. So what I know about this book is that it essentially follows this woman, and she goes to visit some family or something in this interesting house, and while she stays there, creepy stuff keeps happening to her. And I think this might be another like haunted house situation, although I don't know. But this book has like very good reviews. A lot of people are saying it's really good, and it has gothic in the title, so I mean, you cannot go wrong with that. I very much want to read this. I feel like it's thrillery, horror-y, ghosty, haunted, that's not even a word, haunted vibes. So I feel like this would definitely be ideal for the fall spooky season, so I'm gonna recommend it. The next book I would like to recommend you people to read for the spookier fall seasons is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. I'm not sure if that's how you say the name, but essentially this is more for the kind of people that like messed up psychological horror kind of stuff, because essentially the plot of this book is that people eat people. So essentially this is like a dystopian world where some humans are treated like cattle, and basically they're butchered and sold as meat, and other people will go and buy human meat and then eat it, which is a very messed up concept, and it's basically like cannibalism. So very much intrigued to see what this book is about. It's pretty short. I've heard interesting things about it, and I've had it on my radar for a really long while, and I'm hoping to get to this soon because I'm so intrigued. I don't think I could wait. I don't know what else to say, but it has a very unique and interesting concept, and I think it would be proper for the season because it sounds messed up. I'm pretty sure it's messed up, and I'm also pretty sure it has like some deeper messages in there, maybe about consumerism. I don't know, it could be wrong. That's just me assuming stuff. But yeah, another recommendation. If you're feeling like you're in the mood to read about cannibalism, then this might be the book for you. The next book I'd like to recommend is The Wicked Cometh by Laura Carlin. So this is one of the few that I literally have no idea what it's about. I do know that it's set in like the 1800s or something, and it's set in London because it says so in the back, and it's sort of like spooky Victorian London, and there's like mentions of dark things lurking in dark small alleys and something sinister. And yeah, I don't really know, like the back of the book keeps it pretty vague, so yeah, I don't know much about this, but I have a feeling it might have something to do with maybe witches or like some dark devil stuff. I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest, but I feel like this would be the perfect recommendation because it does give you that gothic, a Victorian London kind of vibes, you know, and that just screams fall to me. There's like a blurb on the front that says a deliciously dark confection of a novel, and again, deliciously dark and fall, I feel like just go hand in hand. So I feel like this would be pretty appropriate. So yeah. Next up, I have a sort of similar book with similar vibes, maybe, and that is The Way of All Flesh by Ambrose Parry. And this one is also set in Victorian England, but instead of London, it's Edinburgh this time. This one is more of a mystery thriller kind of book because you kind of investigate gruesome deaths. And from what I know, a lot of people associate like thrillers and mysteries with the fall season, and I kind of do as well. Like I can see it, and this also gives me like sort of Edgar Allan Poe kind of vibes. I don't know why. It might be the crow on the cover, but I feel like this definitely gives me fall vibes, and it would be perfect for the spookier season. So I thought I would recommend it, and here I am recommending it. The next few books are more on the high fantasy or like super fantasy side, but I still feel like they have some autumny fall spookier vibe, so I thought I'd recommend those as well because I don't think fall is all about like gothic literature or thrillers or mysteries. So fantasy's appropriate all year round, but I feel like these give more of the fall vibe, you know? So I will recommend them. The next book on the recommendation pile is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland, and this one I'm recommending because, well, first and foremost, the cover very much gives me like spooky vibes, and Also, like, the magic system in the book is like blood magic, so you follow blood mages, which is again on the spookier side because it involves blood. And also there's a blurb on the cover that says deliciously dark and wonderfully intricate. So again, deliciously dark, very much fall spooky vibes. So I think this would be great for the spookier season. The next fantasy that's on the spookier side that I have here is Forest of Souls by Lori M. Lee. And the reason I am recommending this one, even though I don't really know what it's about, is because the story essentially has to do with necromancy, so that's spooky factor number one. And then it's also set in a spooky forest, so spooky factor number two. And there's seems to be a lot to do with spiders. So there's like spiders on the cover, there's like a spider king mentioned in the synopsis, and just like, I don't know, spiders, spooky. So I feel like this is more on the darker side of fantasy, so I think it would be more appropriate for the fall season, and it has definitely like the spookier vibes. And it's set in forest, which is also like fall vibes, at least in my opinion, because I always associate forests with fall. Not sure why, but I thought this would be another perfect darker, spookier fantasy recommendation. And just how I said that I associate forest setting with fall, that is precisely the reason why I'm recommending the next two books. So one of them is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed, and I don't know anything about this book, and I frankly want to keep it that way because I don't want to know anything going into this. But it has woodsman and wolf in the title, so I'm pretty sure this is set in a wood. And it also gives me like Red Riding Hood vibe, so it might be a Red Riding Hood retelling, possibly on the spookier side. Definitely gives me fall vibes, so that is why I included this on the list, and I really hope it's appropriate. I mean, it kind of gives me fall vibes, you know? And the last book I have to recommend for you all is Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna Ruth Mayer. So this is clearly also set in forest. That is essentially the main reason why I associate this book with fall, because forest trees, a lot of the trees like are very much the center of attention during fall because their leaves turn orange and stuff, so they're pretty. This has nothing to do with the book, but yeah, so this is definitely set in a foresty setting, and it also has to do with tree mermaids and is sort of spooky, and tree mermaids is an interesting concept, so I thought I'd recommend this book set in the forest. Fall vibes. There you have it. So that was it for my fall slash spooky book recommendations. I really hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have read any of these books, even the ones I haven't read, please let me know if they are good, if they definitely give you fall vibes. Just let me know what you think of them. And if you have any spooky or fall books to recommend, then feel free to do that in the comment section below, and I'll definitely look through them because there's not enough spooky, creepy, eerie, atmospheric fall books in my opinion. Love that kind of stuff. Could read that all year round, to be honest. Doesn't have to be the fall season. And I'm rambling again, but yeah, like I said, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in another one soon. Bye!